All right. All right, friends, it's Kate here with the Momboss Mentor, and I'm so excited for you to meet my special guest, Shakira, and her journey to being able to serve. So turning what she thought was going to be her career into serving others as an entrepreneur. So Shakira, welcome to the show. I'm so excited for people to get to know you and hear what you used to do and a little bit about you.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to talk about this because this is something that's new. It's new to me only because I finally took action rather than continue to wait, right? And then it'd be 20, 30 years from now. And I'm like, oh, shoulda, woulda, coulda. So my name is Shakira Relaford. I am a grants and I'm a behavior analyst / grants nonprofit consultant. So I do combine the best of both worlds. What I did prior to this was a little bit of everything. I am definitely a creative soul. And so I was like, oh, if this interests me, I did it. And I studied it to the, to I wouldn't say perfection, but to mastery. And then I'd move on. Like once I learned all I could, I would move on to something else, something else, something else. And so I have a long list of, I won't say degrees, but like certifications and coursework and things like that. But understanding now, right? Because I didn't get it then, like, oh, I had this interest in this, I had this interest in that. Now I'm able to kind of marry it all. Right. And it kind of makes more, it not kind of, but it makes sense. It makes sense now. And so prior to this space, I should say, I called myself a hustler because in college I had 5 jobs in
Oh my gosh, you
undergrad.
were kindred spirit to me. Okay, I love this. Keep going.
So I had 5 jobs in undergrad, and 3 of them were actually, like jobs. The other ones were more like affiliate marketing programs, direct sales, things like that. I mean, I was everyone's Mary Kay lady, Avon lady, everybody's everything.
Everybody's everything. You were a hustler. Okay.
Yeah, everybody's everything, right? Learn their business models. And I it was good. It was fun in the beginning because I knew I needed to like pay bills, buy books, live essentially. And so I didn't mind it, but the jobs I had were not your typical jobs. I was working in group homes. I was working for substance abuse agencies, volunteered in soup kitchens, whenever I could, things like that. And so it was right around the time I wouldn't say I was fully homeless, but I was living on everyone's couch except my own. I didn't have one. And so I needed to figure something out. Like it was just one of those things where it's like, I just need to figure something out. And I was so ashamed to tell my family. So one lady at church at the time, the church I was going to at the time, allowed me to stay with her for almost a month, just shy of a month. And from there I was like, okay, it's go time. And so I put my tail between my legs essentially. And I approached this woman that I saw. She was just kind of hanging out by herself. And asked her about work. I had already knew who she was. She didn't know who I was. We had met prior to this interaction. I had crashed her baby shower unannounced. Like I didn't know. I was like, oh, thought I was just visiting a friend. I didn't know they were actually having a baby shower. So I felt bad. But anyway, she was hiring. She had her own autism clinic. And she was like, okay, I'll let you come, observe. And if from there I was hired that afternoon and been in the field ever since of ABA. And so I loved it. I was a registered behavior technician, got certified, worked for a couple of different companies overall throughout the state between Indiana, Illinois, and Missouri. And
Can we just pause for a second?
Mm-hmm.
Like it was somebody who saw something in you, but it took your courage I just want people to realize, like, even just landing your first, career and see that direction was you having the courage to say, I need this, I need help, or I need an opportunity. And somebody seeing something in you and saying, yes, I'll take a chance on you. So I just wanted to say, like, even getting to be an employee,
right.
courage, and you saying, going after something. So it doesn't matter whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur, you still have to have courage, speak up, and ask for help. So I just wanted to make that indication.
Yes.
Sometimes we forget about that there is some similarities between the two. So thank you for that. That was amazing.
Oh yeah. And so anyway, I got the job, worked as a, RBT, all this up to this point. And we had just moved for like the third time here at Iowa. And I was starting my master's program, and I was like, crap, I had gotten so complacent, if you will, and comfortable in this area of this niche, right? That I was like, I can't see myself doing anything else ever. But I was also burning out, tired, frustrated, annoyed, right? These symptoms that we feel essentially once we know we're about to hit this brick wall, right? Yeah. We're creeping in. So I was convincing myself, oh, I love what I do. There's no way I can be feeling like this, right? And so it wasn't until I moved and got a completely different job of my first real career, like making more than, 30,000 a year, like a real salary, like to me, a real living job, like living a job off of living wages, right? Like a real job. And so I never thought, especially being a woman of color, I never thought that was even possible, right? Again, this older lady saw something in me, took a chance on me, and brought me in. I didn't have the experience yet, but I was like, okay, this is fun. And so I got up in the government nonprofit space as a supervisor and did a lot of trainings and everything. And it was fun, but that's where I really learned or kind of honed in on my skill set. And so I'm going through this during my master's, getting this degree in applied behavior analysis to become a board certified behavior analyst, and then doing nonprofit work. Wasn't too far off, but I didn't see how they were going to level out yet. So I worked that job just shy of 3 years, right at closer to the 4-year mark than 3 years. And it was this year, I was still working at that job. It was this year around February 10th, February 11th. Like I remember the day, it was a Saturday morning. Mm-hmm. And I said, this is it. Like this is it. And that this is it moment was, I woke up and I just bawled my eyes out, and I didn't know why. I was crying. Why? Uncontrollably. I didn't get it. I was so tired. I was staring at my bank account like, why? How? It wasn't on empty. Like the account had a good amount of money in there, but I knew the call was bigger.
Right.
And I was like, I'm going to miss this. So I think my spirit was just grieving the loss of what I'm used to now, and going into something that is unfamiliar to me as a full-time entrepreneur. Like, does that make sense? Like, so yep. You know what I mean? We've learned how to work, but no one teaches us how to be self-sufficient. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Like the moment when you're like, okay, like it's not guaranteed that I'm going to make money in 2 weeks. There's not a guaranteed paycheck. There's not a guaranteed amount. Mm-hmm. I'm responsible for what comes in. My activity is going to reflect what I get paid and what I can do. And so kudos to you to like listen to that light or that burn inside that's like, yeah, I guess this isn't anymore.
This is it.
And some people ignore it and they kind of shove it into a box for a very long time. Where it seems like your box kind of like just exploded in emotion.
It did. Yeah, it did. And I knew it was coming. I was starting to like butt heads with everybody on my job. Like, and it's a small company. It's only like 6 of us. Like, it's kind of hard to not butt heads with someone. But no matter what I did, said, thought, felt, whatever, there was always some rebuttal. There was always pushback. There was always like, I want to say animosity, but just like this unspoken rule or bias, like, and that's tiresome, right? The staff that I brought in when I had first started all quit, and it wasn't on me, but it was on my upper head, essentially, who was above me, and it was hard.
Isn't it amazing though, like how much of an impact who is your supervisor or manager or whatever can play on your quality of work environment too. Like I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a big part for a lot of women. Like I read an article, and I don't know if you have heard this before, but just for the listeners, like there's kind of three different types of people. Like there's people who kind of just stick through it and like complain all the time, but they're not willing to do anything about it. There's
Mm-hmm.
people who will do something, but they kind of end up in the same cycle,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they'll go to another job, but then 2 years or 3 years, like you lasted 3 years, like that's pretty good because I never lasted more than two, and I would just repeat that cycle, another government job, another employer, but go through the same cycle of comfort and they
Mm-hmm.
get frustrated. And then there's the third type of people, which like you and I are kind of like one-on-one, is we kind of just like, all right, let's just flip it upside down and do something different,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of fulfill that need inside. So, if you're listening, it's okay to be a 1 or 2, but let's talk about level 3, which is flipping it upside down. And what does that look like now that you had that this is it moment in February? What was the process now to leave that life and to become what you are now?
Number one, I had to make up my mind.
Mm.
It started up here.
Yeah.
The process didn't just start when I felt the emotion. It was already here.
Mm.
And here in my spirit, right? Like it was already brewing. It had been brewing. I used to say, even when I was a kid, well, number one, my name is Shakira, right? How many other Shakiras you know besides the singer? No. Like, how do you mean these Shakiras right?
Yeah, not very many.
Think about that. So I said, okay, number one, I'm destined to do something good, but better and great. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like better than good, but I'm destined to do something great, number one. So I had to believe that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have like an atypical name. I'm just saying, and for example, you got to say to yourself, hey, I'm such and such and such, and I am the blah, 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 whatever you are. You got to believe that first.
Yes.
Because if you don't believe it, everything else that you do from here is going to reflect, but it's never going to work.
Right.
Or I shouldn't say never, that's rude, but it's not, it's going to take a longer time, right? You got to change this first, and so you got to change your mind. I had to make up my mind, right? That I wasn't going to allow myself to go through the generational norm of work till I die, don't fulfill my dreams, and just pay taxes and be pissed off. It's like, no, I want more for me. I always said, I've been saying this since I was 13, because that's when I started working, when I had my actual first job, like legal job, right? Not like lawn care store, but like W2 job. I was 13. And literally when I turned 26, because I had just gotten married, then I was like, you know what? I'm ready to retire, because I've literally been working now half my life.
13 years.
Yeah, I know, right? I was like, I'm done. This is BS. This isn't it, right? It's just, it isn't it. So I said, I'm giving myself to 40. If I'm not retired by 40, dude, we got a big problem here. You know what I'm saying? So I just decided, right? I shift my mindset into thinking, wealth is okay for me. I can get that. Mm-hmm. Wealth doesn't mean rich. Wealth just means I'm still blessed enough to be able to do what I need to do to serve who I need to serve.
I love that. Yeah.
So we're all wealthy. We may not have the desirable lifestyle we want yet, but we're wealthy. We're wealthy. You're either wealthy or you're not, right?
And that's interesting too, because last week I was at a retreat and they talked about how wealth, like wealthy people can still be poor.
Yes.
Poor people can be wealthy. Like it doesn't matter about the dollar amount. What it means is, how are you as a person inside feeling, and are you fulfilling your purpose, right? And living in that element of, and there are some people who are really wise with their income and their expenses. So, you can have little income and less expenses and have more of a, asset gap or income, savings, than somebody that has lots of money and keeps their expenses matching it and has no money, right? So There's two different ways to look at it, internally and externally. But okay, so I love this. So you set it in your mind as step number one. So
Mm-hmm.
step number one, you decided and you believe that you are destined for greatness.
Right.
What was the next step after that?
I did a lot of research. Number two, I did a lot of research. And by a lot of research, I mean, I've probably spent about 10 to 14 hours on Google, right? Like it wasn't anything where I was in the library, reading books. I was on YouTube and Google. And I
Yeah.
was fact checking what I saw on YouTube or fact checking what I saw on Google on YouTube. So I spent a lot of time in research. Now, by this point in February, I'd already had a nonprofit, was already gaining some revenue, was able to pay myself. Like there was steps that I already, success steps had already taken, but I was forcing myself to remain mediocre, right? Because I was scared. I was like, oh no, this is just good, like part-time income. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was thinking big, right? I set up my businesses as if they were Fortune 500 or as if Forbes were going to come interview me next week. Like I always think or I'm always prepared for the end game. I do my research or my homework behind what all does that take. And I'm always, my philosophy, even with my clients, my job is to teach you how to work smarter and not harder.
Right.
Because what you have to do, what the things you have to do, you could do it strategically, and you can be done in, like, way less time compared to someone else who's taking the scenic route.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know. I'm get it done. I'm gonna get it over.
Yeah.
Okay. So your research is step number two. And then from there, like, then what happened?
Implementation.
Well, there you go. Take action. Okay.
Yeah, just take implementation. Do it scared, right? Do it scared. Even if it's, I don't know what I'm doing, do it anyway. I mean, everything that we've ever had to listen, we're not born knowing how to do this stuff. This is all learned behavior, right? Yeah. The only thing we know how to do when we're born, obviously use the bathroom, okay? Cry, right? Blink every now and then. Okay, we can move our dexterities of our limbs, but we don't know how to think, reason, and all that other things. We spend our lives learning, right? You're going to continue to learn, but how do you know how to be a friend unless you know what I mean, unless you actually try it? You don't know how to. I don't know if this is going to work, but let me just say hi. And if they respond, but hi, how are you? Oh my God, it worked. Right? You have to take action. Like you cannot sit back and wonder or say, and I hear this a lot. Well, I don't know about that. I don't think I can do this. I can't do this. I that. You spend more time counting yourself out of the game than you do trying to go to bat and see if you hit the ball. Right. You never know until you do it. Once you do it one time, it literally becomes easier. Right. There, the weight isn't there. And so I took action, right? So I said, okay, nonprofit was set up. I went ahead and set up the for-profit, as far as getting all my legal ducks in a row, right? Doing more homework, making sure all that was good. But I said, okay, I had to narrow down. The implementation was me trial and error. I figured out really quickly what area I want to serve, who I want to serve, right? How I want to serve them. We all have a heart,
like heart centric. Yeah.
Right. We all have that heart to others, right? Like, oh my God. And but you got to remember, you're not Jesus. You can't save everybody. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like you are a part of the big picture. Right. Of servitude, right? You can't do it all. And so I had to say, I tried to do it all and I got results, but I wasn't fulfilled. I still walked away feeling stressed, burned out, the same feelings I was feeling working a 9 to 5. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so I allowed myself 3 months. I gave myself a time period. So I'm gonna give myself 3 months because it's about how long it's going to take once you really get involved and you're in direct sales, so you understand, right? You're so excited in the beginning. You're so excited for the first 4 weeks, but you know what I mean? And then when the excitement goes away, you're still left to
I
run and
think,
operate that business. So,
yeah, I think there's, well, yes and no. I mean, I think having goals, like you said, like give you 3 months to make this happen, you know? So like sometimes we get complacent because we hit that goal. So then we need to kind of like reevaluate, okay, what's the
keep
next step?
doing it.
Right? You got to keep like growing and stretching your comfort zone. So like it never gets easier. You only get better, and you're able to take on new tasks to grow you, to serve more, to do more, to be better, or to whatever, right? Like, so anyways, I think that's very true though. Like
Mm-hmm.
you get kind of comfortable. It's like
Yes.
you
Oh
get
yeah.
uncomfortable so that you keep moving forward. Yeah. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So now tell us a little bit about what it is that you do now. Nonprofit grant writing. What does that mean for you and your family now that this is what you get to do instead of going and working for somebody else?
I am a lot happier. you know, I'm a lot happier. I think my husband's really appreciative of that.
Yeah.
Right. I get to serve with him and do full-time ministry. We get to travel. I get to homeschool my daughter. There's a lot of things that I didn't think were possible that are possible now. Right. And notice I didn't say I've made X amount of dollars, because it's not about that. It's about those lived experiences that I get to do on my terms. Does that make sense? And so I let myself this summer kind of explore that more and say, oh wow, this is what it feels like. This is good. So now it's go time, right? This is the preparation period for the peak season. And I know you know what I'm talking about. The peak sales peak happens right at the beginning of the year. So this ain't the time to sit down while it's slow. Right. Yeah. This is time to get to work, be creative, let the juices flow. Right. So there's a few grants that I'm applying for the nonprofit side of it all. And I stepped out on a whim and hired somebody. And I'm surprised she said yes, because I'd have been like, I'm not volunteering for 3 months until I get paid. But she understands the vision. And that's what makes me excited, because I ain't the only one having to understand. I can't operate this whole thing in my head. You know what I mean? Like I have to be willing to take a risk, trust myself, and delegate those tasks to someone else. And so same thing, even with, on the for-profit side, what I get to do is wake up every day and I get to write grants for federal grants and contracts and proposals for organizations or even individuals, whatever, businesses in general, for-profit and nonprofit, right, that are ready to make that social impact, but don't know how, or they are faced with the barrier. And I get to be a part of that. I get to be a part of, if I'm not writing the grant, teaching them how to write that grant, what to say in these sections, what the funders are thinking about. I spend a lot of time getting to know these people and their pockets for a reason, right? So you can go tap into it and you won't have the resistance initially for them to say no. And so I am building relationships and then teaching other people how to do the same thing and how they can run their nonprofit or their LLCs and or whatever, whatever business model you have, B2B, B2C, right? You can run that and still be successful. And here's how you can work smarter, not harder. Here's how to flip the time or productivity in your day/life to make it meaningful for you. It's going to be more meaningful for you to work 45 minutes a day versus working 45 hours a week to then produce nothing, right? And so I am always thinking about, let's take care of the logistics, the logistical things that you don't want to do in your business. I'll teach you how to do it in less time and be more productive with it. And you can get a better return of investment, right? And so I use those principles of behavior analysis, reinforcement and things like that to kind of help them build a ecosystem, right? A thriving ecosystem for their future and for the impact that they want to make in their community. That's what I do, essentially, right? In so many words. I've learned finally how to get from here to here, blend the two, right? And call it wonderful.
Oh my God.
Right. Yeah. And then on the sideline, I do trauma-informed yoga and, therapy. I went and got my, yoga certification, all these different things. I said, the babies need to know. So these kids need to know how to be resilient now where they're young, so they're not dysfunctional adults when they're my age. And then we don't have generations of repeat offenders, right? We saw our parents do it. We saw our grandparents do it. Our parents saw their parents do it and their grandparents do it. When is the cycle going to stop? It stops with you because it started inside of you. So you got to tap into it.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Like, I think one, just thank you. Thank you for serving in such a profound way and helping people, really, like you said, return their investment. Like, as a nonprofit, like they're in the day to day and they still have that long range vision and they need help. Like, they need somebody to come in and do what you do, but also like to be able to think about the relationship over the revenue is so profound as well, because a lot of times people think of like, okay, I got bills to pay, I got bills to pay, I got bills to pay. They kind of forget about that the relationship is like their long-term like business plan that people need to tap into. So thank you so much. So we're going to drop the links in the comments so people can connect with you, listen to your podcast, right?
Yeah.
So what's the podcast called? Drop it, like tell us the name.
So the podcast is called Nonprofit Unplugged. It's on all podcast directories. And Unplugged is capitalized. So it's Nonprofit Unplugged, like MTV Unplugged. So we get to talk about all the ins and outs, the raw, relatable, and uncut versions of the nonprofit space and the fundamentals, the things that no one talks about, but everyone has to deal with, right? And how to make it better. And you get to hear other people's stories and their journeys too. So I am very much proud of that.
Oh my gosh, yes. If you can just continue to share your brilliance and your expertise with others, I mean, you're making such a difference. So thank you so much, Shakira. Is there any final comments you want to say or anything? Or
I just want to encourage everyone, and no matter where you are in your life, no matter how old you are, if there's still breath in your body and you're still in your right mind, you still have time to live out those dreams.
Yeah.
Don't wait on someone or something to fall out of the sky, right? To give you permission to live your dreams. You have given yourself permission, right? Give yourself that permission and do it. How you have to do it is going to look different for everybody. I mean, you've heard well over, so many 20 plus stories so far alone. Everyone's process has been different. But one thing we all have in common is that we made a decision to give ourselves permission to live out the dreams, and you should do it too. You deserve that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. The dare to follow your passion. And like, what did they say? Like you said, I think you said at the beginning, like, do it scared, like do it anyway, like
do it. Yeah.
Expert, just do it. And so obviously, if you are a lady or a mom or a boss that's looking at building or breaking free or building your own business, join our free community, the Mom Boss Mentor community. Subscribe to the show if you're involved in nonprofit, or share, because we all know somebody that is a nonprofit. So don't feel like you can't share. Okay. So share away and subscribe to the show. And we cannot wait to connect with you further. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.